And the weather, I feel like the crispness of fall out here a little bit. And we had a little long sleeve on this morning, but good to be with you.
Well, I think we'll all thank you for getting us away from the consistent 102 to 106 degree temperatures in Texas right now.
Well, when you think about football, you have to think about repetition. And that's 90% of it, in my view, is repetitive, day in, day out, doing the things that you've got to put in your brain that's got to come out against the New York Giants. If you don't put it in, you won't have it there against the Giants. That's paraphrasing Denzel Washington, who spoke to the team out here a couple of years ago. But this is where to get the repetition. I really do believe that we get twice the number of repetitions by practicing in this weather. We're always sensitive early about soft tissue injuries. This gives us a more aggressive approach to it than I think you get in other parts of the country. But just as important is the great fan base we've got out here. Boy, it is traditional. It's deep. They made a movie about a young man who carried Tuanay's helmet and what that meant in his life, carrying Mark Tuanay's helmet on and off the field up at Thousand Oaks. So a lot going on out here, and it's great to be a part of it.
Jerry, were your hottest practices at Arkansas or in high school? When you think, because this is like the weather you want to practice in, but you playing football probably had some August practices that you were just like, this
There's
is
no question,
not fun.
and no water.
Oh,
No water. High school was really the, I'm going to say, the extreme, because then you didn't have water, and it was more humid in the central part of Arkansas than it was in the northwest part where the Razorbacks are. But it wasn't until I got to college that they let you have a water break. You had in the webbing of your helmet in high school, you put lemons. And so that you would get in those lemons when during practice, and you'd suck on those lemons when you were standing over there in the huddle.
Wow.
But you took salt tablets on top of that and then go out there and not get any water and play. It's a miracle that you didn't have more issues with heat at that time. And, of course, we all remember those were two-a-days, padded two-a-days, and it was my high school, we had almost 2,000 students at my high school, and it was really tied for the largest in the state. And we only had 120 people out for football out of 2,000 students, with half of those, of course, being women. But the point is that it was, even with a huge population to choose from, that alone probably deterred a lot of participation.
Since we are the home of the Cowboys as well as the Rangers, it is Major League Baseball trade deadline day. If a trade happens while you're here, are you okay if we break into the interview and talk about what the Rangers made a move for?
Talk to me first before you
Okay. I'll be sure to do that. Now, I know that every time this subject comes up, it makes news, but yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, I've actually got a couple of coaches in addition to Jimmy that I would want to put in the Ring of Honor. And as you can probably guess, in the last 24 hours, that has gone everywhere. Do you get tired of talking about this subject? And if not, can we talk about it some more right now?
Not at all. My experience has been, and I hope that our fans would understand that I do know how to keep it stirred up. One of the I visited right before I bought the Cowboys with one of the great people in media, and his name was Dan Burke, and he was just bought ESPN, and he was chairman of ABC. And they said, you got an hour with him. 12 hours later, we were still together. Nice. And he said, we got to have football and television, got to have it. One, it's at the perfect time of the year. It's when you culminate the sport, football, but it happens in the fourth quarter and a little in the first, and that's when you want the decision makers in front of the TV set. Secondly, it's got a lot of breaks, 30-second, natural, unintrusive breaks. We get to talk more about our people who support us, but throw all that away. The most important thing when we make a movie at ABC, we have to spend every bit as much promoting it as we do making it. Football's not like that. Football is a soap opera in between games, in the season, out of the season, year-round. The NFL is. We can't do without it, and not only that, that extra soap opera needs to have a little bite to it. It doesn't need to be softballs. Now, you can go too far with a lot of the issues, but it's important to have that edge to it. I took a lesson right there. And think about it, over the last several years, when it gets slow, I know how to stir it up a little bit. And,
have we waited long enough?
Having said that, my experience has been, whether it really be the Hall of Fame or certainly our Ring of Honor, that there's more talk before you go in and the debate of whether you should or not than there is after you get in. And so consequently, there is more talk, more interest in the people that have worked to build the franchise and be a part of its excellence on the field. There's more interest before it happens than other. And Jimmy, in this particular case, has absolutely gotten more attention and gets more verbiage and more anything about it than any way he would have whether he's in or not. Listen, I'm going to, the way that we do the Ring of Honor is that I don't go around all year long sitting down calculating who ought to be in the Ring of Honor. That's not the way it works. I get tons of input from the people that are in it, from the people that played with them, players that played with them, coached them, or in that matter were people that work with them as coach. I get tons of input about that, but I really don't know what I'm going to do about the Ring of Honor until almost the week before we make the announcement. And so when I'm asked here at training camp what I'm going to do in the Ring of Honor, more often than not, I give the truth. I don't know, and I haven't thought about it.
It'll happen when the NFL and or the Cowboys need it the most, is the way I've always looked at it.
Well, I think that, again, I want to look at how the season's going. I want to look at how we're doing, just the circumstances that are involved there. Make no mistake about it, I'm keenly aware of everybody that should be thought of or mentioned, and certainly they have a lot of support among many constituencies. But the fact that we're sitting here and still talking about this particular issue, certainly after Jimmy has gone into the Hall of Fame, just really makes my point.
Is it any tougher for people before your era? I was curious. I promise I heard everything you said, like Harvey Martin, Everson Walls. Is it tougher like when you weren't here when they were playing?
Well, I know this. Leroy Jordan, who frankly may have been at some point one of the greatest football players that I had ever seen, both at Alabama and with the Cowboys. Bob Lilly said he couldn't have been Bob Lilly without Leroy Jordan. Well, he wasn't even near and nowhere close to the Ring of Honor because he and Tex didn't see eye to eye. And that's one of the frailties of the way the Ring of Honor is it does have that personal relationship of whoever is making that decision. But Tex was really adamant about don't have a committee made up of players, media, coaches, or what have you. You'll have less controversy, although it turns out there's a lot of discussion about it over a period of time, the way I do it, and he would recommend, since he invented it, that's the rules I follow.
Jerry, how much does winning a Super Bowl change the legacy for Dak Prescott as a Cowboy in your eyes?
Well, a little bit is probably overemphasized in your question with the word legacy. It's fair, and it's obviously a term we often put with active players, much less players that have had their careers and gone. I think what it means is what you're about, what we're about. There's nobody more acutely aware of how much we depend and what we have committed in the resources of this team to have Dak be the quarterback. And I think it's a right decision going in a way. But he would be more inclined than to think about a legacy. He's more inclined to think about, and should be, his footwork out here and getting prepared and working with the receivers in the offseason. He's more thinking like that and should be, and would trade any talk of anything about his legacy, I'm sure, for a certain ratio of touchdown passes to interceptions this year.
Yeah.
And so that's where it should be. And if you think about it, you understand that. Legacy is time to think when you can't play no more. That's when to really start zeroing in on the legacy.
Zeke is obviously one of Dak's best friends. I know he's not here right now, but with Ronald Jones' suspension, Zeke still being a free agent, are you possibly looking at bringing Zeke back to the 2023 Cowboys?
Oft ask a question, a very legitimate question, and we're reading the tea leaves. And so the events of like yesterday, the suspension that's involved, you can have injury of varying degrees, and then you have the thing that everybody thinks of, and that's how does it look? You got the pads on yesterday for the first time. It's hard to appreciate Zeke without pads because that'd be his game. And when you put that pad on and you realize the collisions that can happen for you, just his protection and blocking, then all of a sudden you start thinking about the kinds of things you ought to be thinking about when you're evaluating at camp. Now, he's not ruled out at all there.
And then I know you got to go. Can you tell us about about the Nobu party?
Well, of course, without a doubt, one of the great traditions before I became involved with the Cowboys was their trek to California, and they would spend 5 weeks, 6 weeks out here at that time. And that Thousand Oaks going across the mountain over to Malibu was a big tradition. Well, Tex Ram, the director of the team, if you will, to say the least, media guy, certainly wanted to take care of his own. Mm-hmm. And that's our folks called the media. Well, I do too. I saw what it got the Cowboys and Tex by having everybody involved and accommodating the media. So we mean it when we have a celebration out here called the media party. And it encourages me, or not encourages me, but just amuses me to see the fact that half the group there will be Hollywood media here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, we have a great atmosphere for it there in Malibu. It is stealing. It is cheating. It shouldn't be this nice at a training camp that has something to do with football. Mm-hmm. But it is, and we'll enjoy that. And it is a way of celebrating what the media brings to the table, which is so much. And they take these experiences we're having right here, and the folks listening get a little flavor of it, and that's what it's all about. I've always believed that the more you can make available nuances of of football and everything that goes in, the lives behind it, the disappointments, the elation, the more you can get in that, and you guys do it every day, then the better it is for experience when they score a touchdown in mid-October.
Well, we appreciate the time very much, good sir, and love that you're on our station. Thank you very much.
Well, I do too. Good to be with you guys. See you soon.